There's been a lot of hype on the new Locomotive Audio 40AM tube preamp. Let's just go ahead and start out by walking through some features and then we'll get to the sound bites. Just like the rest of Locomotive Audio's gear lineup, this isn't really an exact clone of anything. It's kind of styled after some of the original 1940s style preamps, and it's taking inspiration from like the RCA and Gates design. So lots of mojo built into this box. First off, we've got some pretty standard features, phantom power, which is very useful. We've got a cut, which I think is sitting around 85 hertz. We've also got a pad at 20 dB. That's great if you're going to do drums or anything super loud through this, since we can't really do input and output stage. It's just one single input stage. So great that we have a pad built into this. You also have an ability to flip the phase. Starting over here, if you're going to use it as a normal mic preamp, you've got two settings. They're tapping into different transformer winds. So you've basically got a low wind and a high wind. I think the initial impedance of this preamp is around 150 ohms, so pretty low, which is standard for these older designs. That was pretty run of the mill at that time. We didn't really have super high impedance yet. So you've got a lower wind and then a higher wind on the mic. The lower wind's going to give you a little bit more mojo. I kind of think of it as that's your like super, darker, thick mid-range tones. And then if you flip it up to the higher wind, that's going to give you a little bit more of a flatter frequency response overall. So you've got those two winds that you can tap into on the mic side. On line, when we come up here, you also have an XLR line. You have an XLR input on the back as well as an XLR line input. So dual input. So if you want to keep a mic plugged into this all the time and an output from your DAW plugged into this all the time, you can. So if you want to use this as like a box to mix through or run some stems through, you don't have to patch anything in. They've got both of those in the back, so you can switch between mic and line. Line is very similar to the mic level. You can tap into the two transformer winds. Again, low's a little bit more mojo oriented, a focus on the mid-range and kind of some cool harmonic distortion. When you go up to high, it's a little bit cleaner, flatter frequency response. So again, on both of those, you can kind of think of them as, two different tonal options for both mic and line. Then, of course, you've got dual DIs on here, which is awesome. Great that those are on the front. So, obviously, you've got your level input. There's no input or output. There's just an input, so pretty standard. Now, you've got the two transformer winds. Between those two, you also have response that works for both of those transformer taps. So between both of those options, as well as a 5-position response and the ability to, drive into it if you need to or can, you have a ton of possibilities. On the response, I think the easiest way to think about this would just be that's darker, that's brighter. That's kind of the layman's way to think of it. Locomotive Audio says that position 4 is going to be your flattest. So if you want kind of a cleaner, flatter response, start at 4. As you go down, things get a little bit progressively more rolled off and you pick up a little bit more harmonic distortion and character. So 1 is fairly dark, which is, when I've used other preamps like this from other designers, this is more typically what I would expect from this kind of vintage design. Really cool mid-range character, very smooth top end. Although there does seem to be like almost a bump in the really low mids. Response 1 does roll off your super low end and your high end at the same time. So it's almost like you get a boost in your proximity effect, but at the same time, you're kind of rolling off some of that, stuff that's not really useful really down low. So you can kind of gradually, if that's too much, you can kind of click up to 2 or 3 to get a little bit more of a flatter response. It's not as severe. Again, 4 is going to be your flattest response frequency-wise and everything, cleaner. Well, as clean as you can get with this kind of design. Then 5 actually boosts your highs and your lows and kind of creates a little bit of a smiley face curve. I found that setting 5 is super great on mix bus if you just want to add a little bit of color and, not get too crazy. 4 does sound pretty flat. It's funny. It's nice to have that option, but I found myself either being on like extremes where I wanted something sounding a little bit darker, or I like that kind of boosted smiley face curve on stuff. So it's great that you have all those options in between. Again, since I think this is kind of utilizing some negative feedback in the circuit. Because you have all those options, keep in mind that as you gain stage in and out of it at different levels, you are going to get different sounds and different responses, because the more you feed into that negative feedback, the response is going to be a little bit different. So again, between all your transformer winds options and mic and line, having those 5 response settings and having them change as you gain stage in and out of them, very, very versatile preamp. This isn't just a one-trick pony, which honestly, if this would have just been stock response 1 and just gave you that cool, darker, warmer, boosted sound, I would have been more than happy with this. But it's great that you have all of these different options, because if you go up, like if you're on mic or line, if you go up to the high wind, back off on the input a little bit and go up to response 5, it reacts very much like a cleaner, more kind of classier tube preamp, and then you can go down to the extreme and going down to the low winds and going down to 1 and, getting a lot of color from this. As a starting point to hear how the 40 AM sounds and, hear all the different combinations that we can get between the transformer windings and the response settings, let's go ahead and start with a full mix of a song and start running some mix bus stuff through this and just walk through the unit and see how things sound.
Can't see the stars, this fog of war engulfing every sunrise at the I can't see the stars, this fog of war engulfing every sunrise at the I can't see the
Everything you've heard so far is from a recent mic review I did for Nordic Audio Labs on their new NU24K microphone. You can check out that video if you're curious about the mic. But throughout that whole process, I used my AEA-TRP preamp to record all of the examples for that microphone, because part of the cool thing about that mic is it's using kind of a unique circuit design that is transformerless, and tubeless, but it's mimicking what a tube mic would sound like. So I wanted a super clean input stage so that people were just hearing the color of the mic so they could kind of hear what it was doing. Since all of those were recorded very cleanly with just the AEA TRP, I thought that those files would be a good guinea pig for running line level signals through this. All of this video is going to focus mainly on just running some line level signals through the 40AM. I think that's a really good way to kind of get your head around what the preamp sounds like. And since there's so many different combinations on this, it's good to hear something that's really repetitive and line level that we can kind of loop like we did in the last examples. So what I'm going to start doing now is I'm going to take all the individual tracks from that review of the Nordic Audio mic, and I'm going to start running those through various settings that I think sound good with the 40AM. So on each source, I'll kind of go through and just pick a setting. We'll hear it running through the 40AM, and then you'll hear it bypassed, how it sounded just going through those TRP preamps, because they're super clean. So let's go through a few instruments and go from there.
The polar bears are dying, the butterflies burned, the dollar store's a lie. Now everyone's broke, Bitcoin, GameStop, AMC, products of a virtual reality. We'll try to burn this down before we all drown. Now I can see the stars, this fog of war engulfing every sunrise at the point of no return. Picture perfect places, ash beneath our feet. No, ash beneath our feet.
Now that you've heard all those individual files pass through the 40 AM at various settings that I just picked and thought sounded best for each source, I want to build into a cumulative thing to where you can hear a whole mix of the song. Now, I've already done a mix of the song with just the base set of files of the Nordic mic passing through the AEA TRP preamps. I've gone through and I've meticulously level matched everything so that if you go to the video, the description, there's going to be a link to files that you can download. You're going to have in that session a full set of files that are just the stock Nordic mic passing through the TRP. You'll have those full session files. You'll also have another set in that session of all of those files passed through the 40 AM. So you can compare each source and hear them back and forth and actually, do your own mix, do some EQing and compression and see how it reacts with a clean preamp versus running through the 40 AM. Now, again, since I've kind of very meticulously level matched everything, I've gone into the original mix file that I did and replaced all of those wave files with the versions that I passed through the 40 AM. So when you hear this full song montage in a second, we're jumping back and forth. The first one is just going to be the original mix that I did just with the stock mic files. Then you're going to hear the mix with those exact same mix settings on every track, but just with the 40 AM passes on each instrument. Now, when you do things this way, obviously when I mixed the song originally, all the mix decisions I did were based off a cleaner mic pass through a cleaner preamp. So, it's going to be objective as to whether or not some things sound, quote unquote better. But when you're listening to this file, don't really think about it as me trying to make all of this sound better. This is more just critical listening. So you can hear a full mix of the song with a bunch of stuff over all the mic files and over the mix bus and just hear a cumulative effect of once we start processing things, what differences are you hearing on the stock files versus the ones that pass through the 40 AM, because this is obviously a really colorful preamp, so there are going to be some differences, and most of the mix decisions were based off me making decisions before I heard them pass through the 40 AM. So it's a bit of an afterthought. We're just, this is for a critical listening exercise where you can really hear the difference of what's happening when we do this over a full mix. The other thing that I did just to put icing on the cake is once I replaced all those files and had their original mix, I did one more pass of the whole song going through the 40 AM as kind of mix bus processing. And I think I put that in a high winding setting in response 5. So it was a little bit cleaner, gave us that nice kind of smiley face curve. So this is a really cumulative example of what would happen if you used a clean preamp versus a more colorful preamp and then mixed through it as well. So it should be a pretty noticeable difference. So let's hear the full song montage. Don't forget to download those session files and play around with stuff. It's going to be a Pro Tools session, so if you use Pro Tools, everything's going to be laid out very nicely. If you don't use Pro Tools, just go into the audio folder, drag all those files into your DAW of choice. I bounced everything from the top of the grid, so everything should line up perfectly. Let's hear the full song.
They said in the beginning, it's looking pretty bleak, so call this number toll free. Before you save the world, you better look the part. It only takes a little oil and aerosol. Now I can't see the stars. This fog of war engulfing every sunrise at the point of no return. Picture perfect places, ash beneath our feet. Bears are dying, the butterflies burn, the dollar store's a lie. Now everyone's broke. Bitcoin, GameStop, AMC, products of a virtual reality. We'll try to burn this down before we all drown. Now I can't see the stars. This fog of war engulfing every sunrise at the point of no return. Picture perfect places, ash beneath our feet. No, ash beneath our feet. Now I can't see the stars. This fog of war engulfing every sunrise at the point of no return. Picture perfect places, ash beneath